Welcome back to the Azam Official Podcast, where we bring you conversations with leaders shaping education, youth, and the future of opportunity. Today I'm joined by Navin Valrani, the visionary founder of Arcadia School in Dubai. Navin has not only built one of the most innovative schools in the region, but has also championed entrepreneurship, creativity, and real-world skills for the next generation within his school. In this episode, we'll explore his journey as an entrepreneur in education, the misconceptions about school and university, how AI is transforming learning, and why soft skills and entrepreneurship are just as important as academics. So, Mr. Naveen, if you could begin by introducing yourself, maybe a bit about your background.
Thank you, Mohammed. That was quite the introduction. I'm not sure I can really add to it. Like you, I am a product of Dubai, this wonderful city. I was raised here pretty much since I was a baby. The nursery school I went to was known as Dubai Infants. Then I went on to DES in Oud Mehta, which is still there as my primary school. Then I went on to Dubai College. And through hard work and some good luck, I got into my dream school, which at that time was the Wharton School of Business. Landed in America, 2 suitcases, no parents to drop me off. And really the rest is history. And from then onwards, I never looked back. Graduated Wharton, decided to come back to Dubai, which was interesting because most of my cohort was going on to Wall Street. 93 was an interesting time. President Clinton was just coming into power in the United States. There was a lot of optimism, and it was rare for someone graduating from Wharton to not want to go to New York. Still is rare. And I decided to come back to Dubai because I wanted to be close to family. And, right place, right time, as they say. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum had just arrived on the scene. And Dubai since then has gone from a small tiny city to a global powerhouse, and I've been very fortunate to witness that journey, and with that has come the growth of myself, my family, and my partners and my businesses.
Alhamdulillah. I think something that we all need to be very grateful for is the visionary leaders that we do have in this country who allow us all to grow, allowed our families to prosper in this nation, right?
Yes.
So I guess the biggest driving factor then was to come back to your family, to come back to the environment that raised you.
Yes.
And I think environment is a really nice way to begin this conversation between us.
Yes.
So I did watch a podcast that you had with Muhammad Rabi' Ataya on the Baitcast. And you guys spoke a lot about how environment can influence a child a lot. Not just through their childhood, but actually the person that they become, the person that they develop into, and the decisions that they'll take in the future. So a question that I wanted to ask is, not everyone is in control of the environment that they're in. And let's say I'm a student and I'm a student and I'm in a difficult situation where my parents are expecting me to get the best grades. My school is very difficult for me academically. And I'm having a hard time balancing my social life with my education, with my parents' expectations, with my own personal needs. How do I deal with that?
Wow, classic case of what the large majority of students are going through in your stage of life. So education is meant to be challenging, particularly in more formal environments. If it isn't, then something is wrong. So if you are in a context where you're not feeling the challenge, then that's a lot worse than if you are feeling the challenge. As an educator, I am pleased when students are being challenged to rise outside of what we call the zone of proximal development. And great teachers do that. great schools do that. So the fact that you are being challenged, your school is doing the right thing. Now, the challenge for that challenge is that with that comes an active social life. And also, you mentioned something, parent expectations. Let me tackle what is the easier one from those two first. Parent expectations are important. It's important that parents be parents. I've seen situations, particularly in recent times, where more and more parents are taking a laissez-faire policy of raising their kids, which is hands off.
Okay.
Right? We've done our job, we've put them in the right school, and now let's leave them. That's not parenting. Where I would urge parents to focus on is not the outcomes.
Okay.
It is the process to get to the outcomes. So the expectations should be on the process, not on the GCSE or IBDP results. It is that, is Muhammad doing the right things? Have we instilled in him the right behaviors in order for him to succeed not only in school but in life? And if we're not seeing those behaviors, that's when we need to have a firmer, a more serious conversation. That what's really going on here? Why isn't academics taking a priority in your life? So parent expectations are important, but again, they should be focused on the process. And then we come to this third really interesting piece of social life. Very important, right? I do not want to undermine the importance of a healthy social life. You build great memories in high school. It is one of those phases in your life that when you get to my age and you look back, if you don't have positive memories, it does become a regret. That I feel bad when people say, I hated high school. I hated those years. Because they're such special years. There's so many firsts that happen when you are in high school, including something like getting a driving license,
Yeah.
right? Driving a car. So there's many such firsts, and many of those involve a social life. Now a social life, when we think about social life, very often, and particularly parents, we think about it negatively. Parties, right?
Yeah, it does have bad connotations sometimes.
Yes, and it doesn't need to be. Social life is also about playing sports. It's about winning those games and high-fiving your teammates and then going out after and celebrating. It's about losing and then giving hugs to each other and saying, "Look, let's pick ourselves up." That's all part of a social life. So how you define social life is important. I think also it is important to strike a balance between your academic focus and your social life. And there are periods of high academic stress, right? Particularly around terminal exams, GCSEs, IBDPs, summatives at the end of a year. So those are the phases where, quite naturally, the social life needs to, the time given to your social life needs to go down while the focus on academics goes up. So it really comes down to balance. And with that comes this crucial third component that sort of completes the triangle, which is parent expectations, which is let's focus on the process of not only how is Muhammad studying or is he studying, but is he getting this balance right? And if he's not, let's try and demonstrate to him that he needs to get this balance right.
Okay. I think that the word balance is something that comes up a lot when we speak about this topic, right? But something that students might find hard is, how do you find that balance? How do you gauge that, I'm in that perfect zone? Is there a way to gauge that, or is that very subjective?
It is very subjective. There is no right answer. I mean, for some families, studying is closing your room door, being on your desk, no mobile phone, and you're focused. That is not studying,
Oh.
right? You could be more effective studying on the floor in the living room, mobile phone by your side, um, and you could be even more effective than being locked up in a room, because you could, what many parents don't understand is, and there are some parents who take away your mobile phone during exam time or during study time. What they don't realize is that pretty much everything that you can do on your mobile, you can do on your laptop. I laugh. These school phone bans have been a big topic, and some schools have gone to an extreme in implementing them. But you have a WhatsApp tab open, your iMessages are still going through your laptop. So really, what are you really achieving? So I think it's important to. It's only a student's intrinsic motivation that will lead to effective study.
Okay. And how do you as educators and as parents, how would you go about nurturing that? Or is that something that's innate to a student?
It's not innate. It is a function of years of upbringing, of schooling. What I like to urge parents to do is to share the struggles of them and their families, of the grandparents of students, and really on the dinner table. And that's really important. It's important to have dinner together. On the dinner table, that's a time of storytelling, a time of not only sharing your day, but sharing the history of the family, of the struggles that you've been through to get to where you are. We all, by definition, are blessed simply as a function of being in the city of Dubai. You don't have to look far to know what's happening in other parts of the world. But that blessing is a result of someone's sacrifice. And it's important for the student to understand that sacrifice. That brings about a sense of duty, a sense of responsibility in the student, and leads to, look, I need to get this done. I need to put in the effort to do my best for this particular exam. So it's really a lot about sharing stories. Many families hide these stories. Not sure why. They feel that it's a time they want to forget. But it's not. It's important that students, and particularly in Dubai, because it's such a successful city, and very often students forget that, even, your father, for instance, who I knew as a young boy, we grew up both in this city, what this city was like when we were growing up. Your father went to school in Sharjah. And what did we do on weekends? The highlight of our weekend was going to Hardee's.
To Hardee's.
Hardee's. There was no McDonald's. There was no Burger King. We would go to Hardee's, and it was great. I mean, and look, we had great memories. I wouldn't give those up. There were no real parties. There was one, and it was funny if you'd see our parties in those days. We'd walk into there'd be a party once in a blue moon, and we'd walk into a party, and all the boys would be on one side, and all the girls would be on one side, and it was funny to watch. And I remember your dad at these parties. I'd be, I'm sure I sat next to him on many occasions, and but again, you think, when we look at all of you and you all have such a good time, part of us may say, look, I wish we were born today. But no, we had our own special memories, and I wouldn't give those up.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that you understand that upbringing, what Dubai was like, what the UAE was like in those days.
I think this sort of development of the UAE, and it's a very business-oriented development, right? So I think something that we could touch on here is actually to do with Arcadia as a school, and a system that you guys have in place, which is you guys have a entrepreneurial education, right? You have part of the education which is mandatory, that focuses on entrepreneurial mindsets and bring that out in students.
Yes.
So could you share a bit about that?
So, in my own education journey, when I came across the entrepreneurial mindset, and of course mapped it to the city of Dubai. Dubai is a city of great entrepreneurs, always has been. But developing an entrepreneurial mindset is not about developing entrepreneurs. It's about developing the qualities that it takes for entrepreneurs to be successful. Those are very similar to the qualities it takes for an athlete to be successful. For example, resilience. You know from when you lose a game in football, a game that you should have won, how tough it is to bounce back from that. Great athletes do that. The Roger Federers of the world are able to pick themselves up after a tough loss, come back and win a Grand Slam. The Lionel Messis of the world, loss after loss after loss, and finally his World Cup was waiting for him. He knew it was waiting for him. And it wasn't easy, right? Because he knew every time he got to that stage, he would lose. Yeah. So very similar to what entrepreneurs go through. There are times when you feel that the ground has been pulled under you. So resilience is a common quality. Opportunity seeking, right? Something as basic as, okay, where do I see opportunities in every situation, in every context, with every new piece of regulation? Where are the opportunities? You're a footballer, right? It's like being on a football field. What position do you play?
Winger.
You're a winger, right? You have the ball. You're running down, you're a great athlete, you have stamina, you're running down the pitch with the ball, and you look across and you see three players. You have opportunities there.
Yeah.
Like now, you have, in a second, you need to decide where you're going to play that ball. In a second, right? Yeah. Entrepreneurs have weeks, months to decide, okay, where's my next move going to be? But sometimes we have seconds. Yeah. So that mindset, whether it's an entrepreneur's mindset, an athlete's mindset, a doctor's mindset, an engineer's mindset, those qualities that make up an entrepreneurial mindset can be applied to any profession. So we decided we wanted to develop that mindset. The big difference of the way Arcadia does it, and this is by design, was we decided to do it from a very young age. When I went to Wharton and I had to make my first presentation ever, right, in front of a group of people, it was a business plan. I was 19 years old. I had never made a presentation in my life.
Wow.
It was a different time, right? At British education, we just didn't do presentations. So here I am, 19 years old. I didn't own a suit. So I went Center City, Philadelphia, bought myself a suit, learned how to wear a tie, and presented to a group of individuals that included some professionals from the real world. My palms were sweating. My voice was quivering. I finished the presentation. It was a spreadsheet, and I was told, "Great job, well done. You really pulled off something quite amazing." Gave me a sense of confidence, but I couldn't help but think when we started Arcadia, why did I have to wait till the age of 19 to develop to do my first presentation? Yeah. I now have 8-year-olds standing in front of me, delivering business plan pitches that I couldn't do at 18. And really, that's the difference in the way that Arcadia does it. In fact, it's junior MBA season right now. We call the program the Junior MBA. It's trademarked to us. And the difference is that we teach the program, we develop the mindset, we also develop some hard skills, such as presentation skills, communication skills. And now with the advent of AI, it's making this whole piece, particularly in the higher years, very interesting. how do we bring in AI not only to the business idea, but into the creation of the business idea? So the program's going through a very interesting transformation.
That's, it's a program that I love to see, especially with the initiative that we're building here at Azim. I think it reflects all of the values that we want to see the education system adopt. So I think something that you touched on there is the entrepreneurial program is less about building entrepreneurs. It's more about instilling the soft skills and some hard skills that are translatable regardless of what the kid wants to do when they grow up.
Exactly.
So those soft skills and hard skills, we know with AI and with the ever developing technology in this world, that a lot of jobs and a lot of skills are going to become obsolete. Do you think that's the case with some of these soft skills, or do you think these will live on?
So it's tough for AI to replace soft skills. Really tough. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's really, really tough. It's interesting, right? So with AI, so firstly, we've got to be careful with AI for many reasons. First thing is it's trending. Right? And like with everything that is that becomes a trend, it's a cool thing to say. It's almost to the point where if you're stuck on something, just answer AI. Right?
It's actually a massive SEO tool. Like me mentioning AI on this podcast will raise the views by like 75%.
Right. So it's trending. People mention AI almost on everything right now. But we have to understand, as a human race, our objective is not to replace the human race.
Yes.
Right? So, at a very basic level, what we see with the LLMs is that they are a productivity tool, at a very basic level. When it comes to students and to student development, introducing LLMs specifically at a very young age, in my view, can be very dangerous. You are hampering some of the basic human development skills that are required in order for students to prosper in life. This is everything from discussion, the conversation you and I are having. Discussion skills are important.
100%.
And AI is not really going to help you. In fact, it might even hurt you in developing your discussion skills. Because as opposed to speaking out in class, participating, you just go onto your machine and check answers. You'll go on to ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Perplexity or one of the LLMs, and you'll say, look, I don't even need to ask. I don't even need to ask a friend.
Yeah.
I have an LLM.
Yeah.
So introducing it at a young age can be very, very dangerous. As you get into sort of middle and high school, it becomes more interesting. And it becomes interesting for the following reason. We know as educators that this is a reality now. It's highly unlikely to go away.
Yeah.
Because it's a reality, how do we prepare our students to work with it? I, not long ago, unsubscribed from my ChatGPT Pro subscription. Why did I do that?
Why?
Firstly, we're a Google school, so we have Gemini built into our day-to-day sort of functioning. But more importantly, I didn't want it to be my first point of call. What was happening and is happening is that we're now starting to use LLMs as search engines.
Yes, we are.
And that is dangerous because firstly, LLMs hallucinate. We know that. Secondly, there's the whole environmental piece that we've just sort of almost forgotten, because what can be something as simple as, let me check the location of this podcast studio, which I would do on Google Chrome, I'm now going on to an LLM. So let's say I go on to ChatGPT. ChatGPT then stores it in my account. It gets stored in some data center somewhere in the world. And these data centers, of course, there's a massive data center boom which is likely to continue in the foreseeable future. They use tons of electricity and tons of water. So we're not even now. I think the last statistic I read, I think if you make a query like the one I just said on an LLM versus just a regular Google search, you're talking about 10x the amount of storage.
Seriously?
Yes, 10x. So there's the whole environmental piece.
Okay.
So there's the accuracy piece, there's the environmental piece, but probably the most important, there's the development piece, which is I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
I'm just not thinking, right? And it's just so easy for me to go onto an LLM to look for an answer. And I don't want to be that person. I know it's there. I will use it for the right tasks, particularly tasks that require a fair amount of computation, comparison. Maybe if I've got some writer's block and I'm looking for some inspiration, yes, by all means, it's there. It's a great tool. But for it to be a first point of call in the event you're stuck, I'm affecting my brain development.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I'm over 50. You're a teenager. And for this to be such a central part of your life, in my view, is, as educators, we're not doing a service to our students if we're pushing them towards these LLMs as the first point of call. Regulation, per usual, is always behind technology. Technology always races ahead, and then the regulators come in and say, okay, how do we pull this back? But in this case, it's so far behind. Schools are confused. Schools are so confused. I'm not sure what the policy in your school is, but I've seen everything from let's ban LLMs from our Wi-Fi networks to let's have AI detectors that basically don't work.
Because they're developed by the AI companies themselves, aren't they?
Well, even if they're not, I mean, the false positives are just too high.
Yeah.
So somebody perfectly innocent could be caught.
And the better your writing is, the more likely you are to get caught.
Yeah. So what are we heading into? So we're heading into you completed your GCSEs.
Mm-hmm.
Most of those were written exams.
Yeah.
And there was hopefully an exam officer that brought those exams out of a safe. They brought it into the exam hall. They cut the seal in front of you. They handed out the papers. You wrote your exam. They took the papers back, and boom, it got into a safe again before it's sent for either moderation or destroyed.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the British have been in with this system since I was in school. And I think this is going to make a huge comeback. Of course, the British GCSE system actually doesn't need to change because they never did change.
It's the same thing.
But if you're moving on to a more digital environment, I see us going more into a paper-based environment. Or things like locked browsers are going to be the norm.
Okay, so kind of like a intentional technological regression for testing.
For assessment.
For assessment.
For assessment. More sort of in-class assessments, less take-homes, less sort of big writing assignments that you do from home, a lot of work happening in school, or the recognition that, please, if you're going home, use the LLM.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So if there is a particular assignment where you want to encourage the use of the LLM, then you acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's the worst is if you're doing an at-home writing assignment and you're expecting students not to use LLMs. That, I think, is doing a big disservice to both the teacher and the student. Other creative ways of doing this, great teachers, go home, use an LLM, but come back and then show me what were your prompts to the LLM. So what I want to do is I want to understand your thinking, not necessarily the output.
Okay.
So what were those questions you asked to get to this outcome? So in many ways, I'm training you for what we call prompt engineering.
Yes. I heard you speak about prompt engineering.
Yes.
And even a bit about how ridiculous the term itself is, right?
yeah, because it's so easy to pick up. I mean,
Yeah.
someone like you can teach it.
There are a lot of people who do teach it for
Yeah.
quite a lot of money, actually.
Really? Yeah, that's I find that quite funny.
Yeah. So while we're on this topic of AI and, technological emergence, obviously a lot of jobs are going to become obsolete. They're not going to exist anymore. And a lot of degrees are going to become useless or a lot less valuable. So, for example, rather than needing 10 people in your finance department, you only need one with a bunch of LLMs, right? That he can use to do the same work that 10 people would output nowadays. So, your recommendation, because I know you are you're my university guidance counselor, right? And what do you recommend students take that will still be valuable in 10 years' time? Or will none of them be valuable in 10 years' time?
No. There will be things that are, in my view, valuable in 10 years' time. So firstly, with every technological revolution has come the fear that human beings will lose jobs. When the internet came into sort of being in the 90s, and then of course leading up to the dot-com bubble in 2000, same talk. The internet's here. Why do we need this? Why do we need that? Why do we need banks? People still say, why do we need banks? Banks have survived. So there is a fair amount of fear-mongering. I think a lot of this is we just don't know how the world is, in which direction it's going to go. But yes, what we do know is things will change. Now, which jobs are going to be there, we're not sure. However, two things here. Firstly, subject specialists, subject expertise will always be needed.
Always.
Always.
How come?
Expertise. How come? So let me give you an example. So right now as we speak, what's in demand for university graduates? Computer science going down.
Really?
Because LLMs can do coding, and they're getting better and better at it. Maths and physics majors on the way up, particularly maths, because you need people to create the codes behind those LLMs, to create the right sort of chemistry, let's call it, behind the LLM itself.
Okay.
Those are maths majors.
Yeah.
Maths specialists, people who write the proofs.
Yeah.
So that's in demand. Humanities is interesting. Humanities really took a hit with the internet coming on, right? So everyone was talking about STEM majors. Schools were introducing STEM, and then STEM became STREAM, and STEM was really trending. What I'm seeing now is a really interesting phenomenon and an unexpected one, which is that humanities are knocking on the door again. Because those skills that LLMs cannot do, this conversation,
Social interaction.
that social interaction, the skills of empathy, resilience, collaboration, those come through the humanities quite effectively. A very wise mentor of mine had told me that the best STEM majors are those that have done humanities degrees as well. And I think humanities is going to make a massive comeback, because there will be a recognition that with a maths major, what we don't want is someone who's going to lock themselves up in a room for the next 2 years. What we want is someone who has the expertise but can contribute to the work environment.
Yes.
So humanities majors is doing a great knock on the door. But specifically, you mentioned finance. Let's talk about finance. When we talk about accounting and finance, we often think about bean counters and people sort of running spreadsheets and plugging in numbers and creating financial models. That is not finance. I can tell you, with the advent of LLMs, my need as a group MD of finance professionals has gone up, not down.
Really?
It's gone up.
How so?
So, yes, the LLMs can do a lot of the sort of, let's call it the analyst work.
Okay.
But they certainly, when I'm in the boardroom, I want to hear the voice that is able to look at the LLM output and consider it as an opinion and offer a counter. It takes an astute finance professional, someone whose accounting knowledge is of the highest of levels. Again, we're talking expertise. So one of the highest sort of accounting certifications is something called, in Britain, called the Chartered Accountancy, CAs. In the United States, they call them CPAs. Rolls-Royce of accounting certification. Is the demand for CAs and CPAs going to go down? I don't think so. It's actually going to go up. So we're going to want those finance professionals in the room to almost be that counter voice. You know when you're writing an essay, how you have to present the counter argument? Only an astute finance professional can do that when it comes to numbers. This is the LLM view. This is the operations view. Is there a counter?
It's a bit fascinating that the thing that we will go back to is wanting to be able to speak to someone who can use their it's part of human nature to be able to argue, you know, to give your own view and disagree with someone else's view, which I think some AIs are missing, some LLMs are missing.
Yeah.
They take one side and they just go very deep into that side.
Yeah.
But
I mean, let's talk about something that you can relate with. You know, you're applying to university this year.
Yeah.
A university list.
Okay.
Something as simple as a university list, right? Can an LLM do it? Of course it can. Put in your criteria, boom, you get a list.
Yeah.
But that's not what you will be looking for. What you're looking for is going to Rabia Ataya and saying, tell me, how was it at Stanford?
Yeah.
Tell me what was really going on. Tell me about the dorms. Tell me about the bathroom.
Things that you can't find online.
Things you can't even follow, and you won't even dream of putting it online, right?
Yeah.
You'll go to a Navin and you'll say, tell me what it felt like being in Wharton. How was Philadelphia? Were you scared? You want to hear those stories when you're making your college list. An LLM, is it going to give you those stories? No. Right? Because you trust Navin, you trust Rabia, and you want to hear this, and this trust is built up over years, right? And you want to take that relational trust and translate it into developing your college list. So there are things that you will not be able to get from an LLM. So has the need for, let's call it college counselors, you know, we have, as you know, an organization called Forward Thinking. Has the need for a forward thinking gone up or gone down since the advent of LLMs? Because an LLM can be your college counselor.
Okay.
It's gone up.
Really?
It's gone up. We say no to more students than we say yes to, because we just don't have the capacity.
Wow.
So it's extremely important to understand that professions, yes, there'll be a change in the way things are done. Certain professions will lose jobs, but even within those professions, there will be needs for expertise.
Okay. So would you say that what would be best to study is not a specific subject, but to go very deep into one subject?
Go deep in, do not, so generalists, which have been sort of in demand, the MBA graduate, is going to be replaced by specialists, in my view. Those who can really, really deep dive. And at the same time have the human skills, which you get through humanities, to then communicate them in a boardroom type environment.
Okay. I want to go back pretty far into the conversation, somewhere near the starting point where we spoke about school. And I want to ask about a point that you mentioned on the Baitcast. And that was that that everything you learn in school, academically, you can learn at home. It's a statement that really got me thinking. So What is the need for school then?
What is the need for school? Hand on my heart, as an investor in education, in schools, pre-COVID, every time we would put what we call CapEx, capital investment, into a school building, I would question myself, what are we doing? We're pouring tens of millions of dollars, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars, into these buildings. And online schooling is a real thing. You can learn all of this sitting at home.
Okay.
So what are we doing here? Like, is there going to be even a need for these buildings in 10 years? So then COVID happened. And I was like, okay, this is it. Everyone at home.
It's the end of school.
Everyone studying. The end of school. The end of school buildings. But then something really, two interesting things happened. One was, I would say, the edtech industry missed an opportunity of a lifetime. Can you imagine? Overnight, you have all your students at home using technology tools. Yeah. So there were some stars, right? There were like Zoom.
Zoom was a massive
right?
star.
Zoom was a massive star. Now, we were using Zoom before, so as educators, we were using Zoom before the pandemic. You only heard of Zoom during the pandemic, but we were using Zoom. We loved Zoom, right?
For meetings?
For video conferencing, yeah.
Okay.
But it became the de facto leader. So there were some stars like that. But by and large, you have an opportunity as an industry of a lifetime to demonstrate that physical buildings are not needed. Mm-hmm. We can take over. Failed.
How come? What's the reason?
I think they did a really bad job. I think the markets like, let's say, India, where you have millions, hundreds of millions of students sitting at home, EdTech was not able to come up with a model where they could say buildings are not required. And they were not able to recognize what the students wanted, because what came out of COVID, and a few months in, I don't know if you remember that time, was the students pushed back, said, we don't want to be at home.
Yeah.
We want to go back. And it was refreshing as an investor. It's like, wow, what a validation.
Yeah.
Right? Opportunity of a lifetime, and the kids want to be back in school. So the question is why? Yeah. Why did the kids want to be back in school? So firstly, this dynamic within the house. You know, I mentioned the word balance.
Yeah.
There's also balance applies to time and family dynamics. What makes family time so special is that it is not pervasive through the day.
Mm.
Kids go to school, mom and dad go to work, one member travels, but when it happens, it's magic. But if it's happening all the time, it's not magic anymore. Yeah. So in order for family time to be special, you need people to not to have family time. Yeah. And school provides that. School provides a daycare function, but students were missing the social interactions in the corridors. They weren't missing class. They weren't saying, oh, we miss our teachers and we miss homework. No, they weren't saying that. They were saying we miss recess and we miss sports and we miss just hanging around the cafeteria. I remember when the malls were reopened in Dubai, initially people of your age weren't allowed back. It was the adults that were allowed back first.
Yes.
You had to stay you had to stay at home. And the kids, I remember talking to students and they were like, why aren't we allowed back? We want to go out, right? This is so frustrating. So it was about having avenues where you can go and have that human connection. And school buildings provide that. So today, as a school owner, when I design a new building, I'm looking at what are the spots where students are interacting with each other. Offices. We're paying a lot of attention to our coffee areas, where employees can have those informal chats, right? That's what came out of COVID.
Yeah.
The edtech industry thought that they would replace traditional schooling. And I think that was the fundamental flaw. What the edtech industry should have done was, we cannot replace traditional schooling. It's not going to happen. Let's look at how we can collaborate and make this happen. So COVID was that opportunity where they could have jumped in, gone to schools and said, okay, let's work with you and see how it's going to happen.
Yeah, which I think they could have done.
They could have done it more effective. They did do it like, things like Seesaw. I don't know if you know that.
Teams as well, yeah.
Teams. So Teams is an interesting one, right? I'm not a big fan of the Teams product.
No.
Not at all. I am more so Teams at the very basic level is a conferencing tool, which to me Zoom is far superior. And you can talk to users who've used both, such as myself. Teams is also a chat platform. It is also it allows you to group different chats.
An organization.
Organization. But let's look at your school, which I know very well. You have 3 different platforms where teachers communicate with you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Ideal? No.
Absolutely.
You'll get one assignment through Fireflies. You'll get another assignment through Teams. You'll get a third assignment through Toddle. And your school's not the only exception, right? There are schools like that. Many schools. Why? Because fundamentally, as teachers, we hate Teams.
Oh.
We hate Microsoft Teams.
How
Fundamentally. Teachers are not Microsoft fans. Let's leave it at that, right? We are Google Docs, Google Sheets. We love the collaborative power of Google. Now, I know Microsoft OneDrive has it, but it's nowhere near the power of Google.
Easier to use.
Yeah, Google Drive is so much. So I've come across, you'll be surprised how many educators actually don't have Microsoft Office at all. Like I used to be part of a world where you couldn't dream. And again, Microsoft makes great products. Don't get me wrong. I don't want this to be a platform where I'm criticizing Microsoft, the use of Microsoft. But when it comes to teaching, the Google collaborative tools, along with an infrastructure of your choice, in our school we use Apple, is in my view far more effective than a Microsoft environment. And this is just also on a personal level.
Yeah. Okay. I think this entire discussion, at least for the past 5-10 minutes, has been a lot about collaboration, working together, that human connection. And I think we can group all of this into something really important and really pivotal to the human experience, which is networking, which is pivotal to entrepreneurship, to business, to landing a job, to all of it, right? And I wanted to know, how do you as a student nurture networking skills within students?
So my first sort of broad advice is, don't look at networking as networking. I said this with Rabia as well. To me, networking is very shallow. Look at building and developing relationships. By you inviting me onto this podcast, you and I now have a connection.
Mm-hmm.
Will I call that networking? No. I'd call it relationship building. And we've now reached a stage where, Mohammed, you can pick up the phone, or I can pick up the phone, we can pick up the phone to each other and say, look, I'm in a problem, can you help me? That doesn't happen through networking.
Yeah.
It happens through relationship building. Mm-hmm. So I would highly urge students, please don't go to an event just for the sake of networking, unless you're in sort of the stage where you're looking for a job, you're in university, you're prospecting, then companies...
You want to scout around.
Yeah, companies have networking events. Yes, that's a different story. But look at building lifelong relationships. And those happen as a function of time you spend with each other. But it's not only time. I could spend hours with you, but it's meaningful minutes. People say, oh, you need to go on vacation with someone, or no. It's about those special minutes. This last 60 minutes with you, we've shared so much that we've now developed a connection that will last for the rest of our life.
Yeah.
That's not networking. So use these type of examples to actually discourage networking and encourage relationship building.
Yeah. I like that perspective on it.
Yeah.
It changes the way you look at it. It's no longer a shallow level connection, surface level connection. It's about getting to know the person, and then it's not going in with the intention of I'm gonna build a relationship with you because I need something from you. I'm gonna build a relationship with you because I want to get to know you better as a person, and then if I'm in trouble, maybe you'll help me out,
Yeah.
right?
You know how your father and me developed a relationship?
How?
We played tennis together, not with each other. We both learned tennis together.
Really?
And I mean, we knew each other since we were kids, but we developed a relationship. I think when we were 40, so very late in our life, we both we both decided we wanted to play some sports. There's a third friend of ours who was close to both of us. And he said, look, why don't we get this little group of 3 together and we take some tennis lessons? We took tennis lessons for a very long time together. We would play in the Madinat Jumeirah. We'd go, 2-3 times a week. We were terrible. It was a big achievement to serve overarm, right? And we would be celebrating and high-fiving. And we would, at the end of the 1-hour lesson, we'd sit and we'd have, of course, refresh ourselves, hydrate, and share a few stories.
That's a super interesting example for 2 reasons. So the first one is, I don't remember where I heard it, but I was having a discussion with someone. And I remember them mentioning that the strongest relationships are built from shared experiences that induce strong emotions. So things like, that's why horror movies are a great way to build a relationship, right? Because you're going through that tough emotion with someone next to you.
Not ideal for a first date. But yeah.
Right? So, and learning as well, that in itself induces a emotion of, I guess you could call it sort of like a joy, a euphoria of, I've achieved it. And that shared emotion can build a really deep relationship. And I think that's why you see a lot of people who are in the same class together will develop good relationships.
So sports. I mentioned tennis.
Yeah.
That your father and I, played tennis together. Sports is so important in developing relationships. So you talked about Arcadia developing the entrepreneurial mindset, but one of Arcadia's key focus areas has been sports. The gentleman who was just here before me, right? We know you from sports.
Yes.
Right? We know Arcadia from sports because we did and we do have a tremendous focus on sports. Today, if you are an athlete and you want opportunities of playing competitively, Arcadia is the go-to school.
Yeah.
Because our executive principal is a former professional athlete, as I told you. His wife is a former Olympian. They're on our staff. And we develop teams who have that mindset, that entrepreneurial mindset of resilience, of wanting to win, but also acknowledging that if you don't win, you can bounce back. So developing that real character through sport. Yeah. And the Arcadia British School had really, I would say, has mastered that.
Yeah.
So sport is very, very important. Very important in developing those meaningful relationships. Think about your best friend on your football team. On your football, yes. One of your football teams. I know you play football on many, many different platforms, but that person is likely to be your best friend in life.
Yes.
There you go. And then think about if football was removed from the equation, would he be your best friend?
Probably not.
Exactly.
Definitely not.
So see the importance of sport.
Yeah.
My best friend growing up, we used to play cricket together. And he was always better than me in cricket, great bowler. And I'd always look at him and say, I want to be like him. He was my best friend. And we developed a friendship through cricket. You remove cricket from the equation and suddenly my friends would look very different, right?
Yeah.
And that's the importance of sport.
This this core concept of relationship building in sports is it's the fundamental building block of our event that we're launching with Azam, right?
Yeah.
Which is, it's a great conversation to have, because the whole idea of the event is to have students paired up with a mentor who is within an industry of their interest, and they're playing sports with them for 5-6 hours, and that's just the introduction, right? Whether they go on to play more events together, whether they go on to play sports together outside of the event, that's a different story. But it allows them to build a really, really strong base for a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, what you're doing with, paddle tournaments where you're pairing mentors with students is really remarkable, because you are acknowledging the importance of sport in building relations, and you are designing an environment where that's going to happen. And great schools do that. They look at sports teams as a mechanism to develop relationships.
Which they are.
Yes, and you can speak to our PE department. I honestly, I think PE teachers have the best job in the world.
They do. Actually.
Because it is so gratifying to know that you're not only teaching, but you are making a lifetime of a difference on every minute of the lesson, of seeing your student on the field, or on the court. And I think it's really, really special.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a pleasure having you with us,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Navin Valrani.
Thank you.
We spoke about AI, mental regression, how you can wisely use AI, networking, building entrepreneurial mindsets, how that can be applied to different aspects in life, and then we finished off with sports and how you can build relationships through that. And I'm really grateful to have had this opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you.
Thank you.